Welcome, everyone, to Coffee, Coaching, and Callings, a live podcast created for coaches, leaders, and helping professionals that are on a mission to lead a successful and heart-centered life. Your hosts today are myself, Laurel Elders, an ICF Master Certified Coach, and I have with me Michael Tucker. Michael's an executive leadership and life coach and holds the ICF Credential Professional Certified Coach with the ICF. We are on live today on behalf of the ICF Accredited Institute for Integrative Intelligence, headquartered in the United States, where it's our mission to elevate human potential through the art and science of masterful coaching. Today's podcast will be focusing on following your calling, and our topic is answering the call to coach. Michael, I am so excited to explore this topic with you today of answering the call to coach because it is, there's so much here, right? And I have to say first that answering the call, in my experience, can come with some challenges. So I don't know if you relate, but I started coaching 2005 professionally, and I would, people would ask, what do you do? I'd say, I'm a coach. They'd say, what sport? So the title can sometimes be misunderstood or misused. I'd just love to hear your experience on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the title of this topic today. But before we dive into that, thanks so much for having me here. I I love the opportunity to do podcasts with you whenever I get the chance. So I feel really fortunate today. So thank you again. Answering the call to coach. So when I think about coaching, and you talked about challenges, some of the challenges that can come with it. For me, coaching wasn't the thing that I, decided that I wanted to do when I was 5. It was one of these things that came into my life. And interestingly enough, I would definitely say it is a calling for me. In 2008, I started a marketing company, and it was going really well. And around the 2014 mark, things were going really, really well. And at the same time, my mom was not well, and she ultimately ended up passing. And so when she passed, that completely changed everything for me. It really made me question my life and the work that I was doing. And sometime during the year of 2000, between 2014 and 2015, I found myself on YouTube watching Dr. Michael Beckwith talk about the difference between visioning and visualizing. And what he said was that visioning is inviting the creative force to show you what it wants to do through your life, versus visioning, which is you looking at something and just doing what you see. And so I'm doing this exercise with him, and what I see is myself having these really powerful conversations with people. And my first thought was, maybe this is counseling. And so I actually enrolled in a counseling school. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I enrolled in a counseling school. I enrolled in a counseling school, and after the first class, it was a great school, a great experience, but I knew that wasn't for me. And so the thought was like, well, maybe this looks like coaching. And some people, to include my wife, have been talking to me about this. And I said, yeah, that's what it is. And my gut reaction, my immediate reaction was, no way, I'm not going to do that. And I did everything to avoid it, because my thought was the industry wasn't really organized from what I could tell. I had met a number of coaches who weren't really successful by my standard of success, right? So there was a whole other conversation around that. And I just had a lot of hesitancy. But what was greater than my hesitancy and all of my objections was my curiosity. And so I started to look into the profession more and more and more, and I fell in love with it. And I started coaching folks. And at the time, I didn't have a credential. I just had I was ignorance on fire. I didn't have any credentials, but I watched a lot of YouTube videos and read a lot of books. And so And oh great, and I watched a lot of great people coach. That was the thing, how in sports you watch game footage.
Hmm.
I hours and hours of watching coach footage, and just fell in love with it. And then I decided that I wanted to get credentialed in 2020, and that's what I did, and here we are.
Yeah. Wow. And how was your experience going through the education and the training, having just kind of, um, looked into it personally and, self-education versus your coaching experience after training?
You know, I would I would say that the impact was cumulative. I
Mm,
think that I brought a great deal of intuition and awareness to my coach training. But what the coach training brought to me was the science and the methodology.
mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, even now where I am in um, my career is I'm looking at how do I bring those two worlds together in maybe something new and creative. And that's the other piece that, when I was just out there,
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of making it up as you go. And sadly, I don't know. I don't even know what you adjective use here, but a part of that is the reason that sometimes the coaching world gets a bad rep, right? It's kind of the
Yeah.
wild, wild west,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, just, when I first came into it, I thought I was coaching. I thought I was coaching. I would run support groups for single parents and at-risk teens. And I thought, oh, I'll go get this coaching certificate to make it, legit. And then I also thought I was learning counseling. And so for me, I showed up the first day of coach training and I was like, wait a minute, what is happening? Somebody is asking questions for me to come up with my own answers, not guiding me, telling me, leading me, advising me. And I was just so blown away that existed. Now looking back, having been a coach and falling absolutely head over heels in love with coaching, I've learned that there's two journeys that we take to reach our human potential. So the first journey, we can be shown the way. There's books and lessons and, counselors and mentors and consultants, all these people that can help us. But that second journey, that we take from going within, and that is a self-discovery process, and no other profession does that. No other profession does that. No other professional can walk with someone on that second journey in the way that coaching does, especially the ICF's definition of it being client-centered. And yeah, so taking the client on that second journey to go deeper within themselves and not overstepping, pretty powerful.
It is really powerful. And I have to tell you, when I learned that about the coaching profession, it freed me up from feeling
Mm-hmm.
like I had to have the answer for my clients.
Yeah.
When I learned that, and when I learned how to do it properly, and that was a big thing that was missing for me.
Mm. I'd love to hear your experience. I know when I first started coaching, I was nervous to show up without preparing anything. I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to help my clients get results if I don't prepare? And now I've learned that if I do prepare, it goes out the window because you're dancing in the moment with possibilities with your client.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would probably say when I first started out, I went through all kinds of gyrations,
Mm-hmm.
um, to include preparing and having lesson plans and all kinds of things. And I think that there is a place for those things in the world of coaching, um, if that's specifically identified. Uh,
Right.
However, the kind of coaching that we're talking about, the ICF version of coaching, which I believe is frankly the most powerful version out there. It's just my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
because I've seen so much.
Mm-hmm.
When you're what I call a maverick coach, you take a look at everything, and so having looked at so many things, I can appreciate the whole idea behind centering the client and allowing the client to lead the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a completely different experience for sure, right? Than being advised or guided.
Right,
Completely different
right.
experience.
Yeah, I don't have to have the answers.
Yeah, yeah. I know, and I realized just had this epiphany one day that I can be, I've brought this up before in other podcasts. I can be the expert of something external. I can teach someone something and, take them on that first journey. But I will never, and as a coach, I don't usually use absolutes because we're open to possibilities, but I will never be the expert of another human being and their truth ever, period, dot. So for me to assume that role, that's why I love the neutrality that coaches bring. I'm here in honor of you.
Yeah, well, what's so beautiful about this, because we're talking about answering the call of coaching. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
couple of calls that I feel like comes with the call of coaching. So there's this call to be powerfully of service in this way that we're describing, holding this space for another human being, for their greatness to emerge. But then the other calling that I think oftentimes doesn't get as much attention, is the calling of wholeness and integration for the coach.
Ooh, yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, and for the longest time, I would say that, um, and I've even said this in classes, you're never coaching the client, you're always coaching yourself. You're coaching
Mm-hmm.
yourself to get out of your way, get out of your limitations, get out of your insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
get out of anything that will stop you from being powerfully present and of service to this other soul that's presented itself in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do that, the coaching will take care of itself.
Mm, yeah, I love that. The other thing that I was thinking about with, following the call to coach is that, and I really appreciate this about the approach in general, is that every coach is serving in their own unique way. So I was called to be of service to leaders. Some people are called to be of service to health, right? And it's so impactful to me that there's such a variety of ways that coaching can show up in the world and be of service.
Yeah, I love that. And there's no rush to figure out what that call is, I think.
Mm,
I think that there's so much space, for one's way,
mhm,
one's path, if you will, on this journey. And I think I remember being in coaching school, and that was the topic. Oh, what should I focus on? What should my expertise or my niche
mhm,
be? And I initially had that thought, and I stopped myself and I said, I don't want to have that right now. I just want to
mhm,
explore. And that openness and willingness to explore as a coach, I mean, it's led me to working with individuals. It's led me to working with leaders and executives. It's led me into teaching with
mhm,
you. It's led me to so
mhm,
many different ways.
mhm,
And it's all rich and it's all delicious. And if there comes a time when that calling is becomes very specific, then I'll take action when I hear that.
oh, that's fascinating. Yeah, my experience was, I was advised to start with a niche that I knew a lot about, had expertise in. But there was a part of me that was like, I don't want this niche. It's not what I feel called to do. But I was I was such a younger coach at that time and I was scared. And so I took the advice and I, it, it just, I kept circling back to leadership. I kept circling back to it. So it is interesting. It can definitely unfold. And I did great, starting out with more of a health centered niche, but
Hmm.
I think it always comes out eventually, right? Especially if we're in coaching and our inner truth is wanting to surface.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. being having a background as a military officer, that there's that love for leadership there.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, yes, that is a natural draw for me. Um, and and there's this heart that I have just for people, and the and making this incredible tool available to as many folks as will have it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's been so transformative to my life and so many lives of the people that I've been connected to.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious what since you chose to answer the call, you said yes. And how have things transpired in your life as a result of saying yes?
Okay, so I love that you asked that question that way, because what I have discovered is saying yes to a call means saying no to a lot of other things.
Mm.
I'm a person, I love variety. And when I said yes to coaching, there was a lot of variety that I had to get rid of
Mm-hmm.
because and it's because you can't grow that way. You really can't go deep. At least it was hard for me. Maybe there's somebody out there that can do 50 things at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that person. I need to focus on a particular area of
Mm-hmm.
growth. And so saying no, yeah, that's is a big part of saying yes.
Mm. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Yeah, just starting out, I remember saying I knew with every fiber of my being that I wanted to coach after that first day of training. And I found out what it actually was versus what I perceived coaching to be. Way different. Um, and it was interesting because it was almost like the path always shifted, but coaching was always my true north. And so I knew, yeah, so there were other things I said no to. So I had also signed up for a counseling. I was in a degree to become a therapist. And then I thought, I'll take this class, along the way. And I was like, no, this is it.
Yeah.
So saying no to that, saying yes to coaching, yet it because I mean, think about it. Coaching is a relatively newer profession compared to therapy, counseling, and even consulting. I mean, those have been around a long, long time. So coaching is relatively new in the definition and just the distinction of, hey, these other modalities are already out there. Advising, guiding, mentoring, teaching, those are all out there. But this new thing, is coming around and it's not yet been described. And then the distinction of coaching came to life. And I know in, what was it, 1995, the ICF was formed to kind of protect this new way of being with a person, personal coaching versus sports coaching. So yeah, it's just pretty fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that, because I think that coaching, the profession that we call coaching now, takes into consideration wisdom that has existed throughout the ages. And that's what I love about it so much. Even though the profession as we know it and the ICF style of coaching is relatively new, the the wisdom is timeless, and being able to be a part of that, and sharing the wisdom of just being a clearing for other folks to find their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. Any advice that you have for somebody considering becoming a coach, or, feeling the call, but feeling nervous because it is a newer profession and it can be misunderstood, and any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have a few different thoughts on this. So I would say that coaching, where the profession is today, it's not where it was 30 years ago. So there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
more structure and a lot more guidance than there ever was. I think the
Yeah.
profession still has room to grow. in that regard. But it is a legitimate profession. I mean, the industry was about $50 billion industry. It is
Mhm.
legitimate.
Yeah.
And so if you are thinking about this profession, I would really invite you to think about two things. Number one, is it what's inside of you that is really calling you to do this? Is this something that's just a good idea for you? Or are you running from something? Or are you moving towards something?
Mhm.
And where do you see yourself in all of that? So I would really invite, you to think about that if you're thinking about coaching. And then the next thing I would say is have a conversation with a coach.
Mhm.
Talk to them about it.
And
And
being
maybe have a conversation.
coached.
Be coached, get
Be
coached.
coached. Yeah. Yeah.
Get coached.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll throw this in here. There's a huge need and this profession for coaches of all different shades and colors and backgrounds. It's a huge need.
Yes.
And so um, if for whatever reason you think that because of what your background is, you're somehow not needed, I would just say that's not the case. You are needed and you are welcomed in this space.
I have a personal theory that we all have a calling. Some of us might not listen to it. We might ignore it. We might justify why we shouldn't go there. It doesn't make sense. I've had those arguments with myself. My calling goes, "Hey, Laurel, look at this. This is where we want to go." And I go, "I don't have time for that." And argue with it. But I love what you're saying about you are needed. Like your gifts are so unique to you. I was listening to Mary Morrissey speak, and she was at a convention where the Dalai Lama was presenting. And the next day, she was sitting, I think she said, in a group of other people that had also seen the Dalai Lama speak. And this woman turned to Mary and asked her a question, and Mary answered it according to what she heard the Dalai Lama say. And Mary said this woman just lit up and was like, "Oh my gosh, that's profound." And Mary's like, "Well, no, the Dalai Lama said that." And she said, "Yes, but it was the way that you just said it in your unique voice. It was the way Mary, shared that impacted her." And that gives me chills because every coach, no matter if you think, "Oh, I'm too shy, I'm too this, I'm too that," has a gift for other people that only your potential future clients need.
Wow. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and it's what's so amazing about this work is that regardless of what your background is, that background is going to be, to your point, that background that somebody else has and you're going to be able to support them
Mm,
um,
yeah.
by doing this work. And I can't tell you the number of people who've reached out to me about coaching. They see what I do, they're interested, and then they immediately go into this dialogue of um, what's different about them that makes them ineligible for this incredible opportunity.
Mm,
And my response is the very thing that you're thinking makes you ineligible is the thing that makes you eligible and it is what gives you your unique perspective.
mhm. That is so powerful, that perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And just imagine the world if everyone turned towards their calling instead of justifying, "I can't do that," or, I really truly believe, me personally, that the world would be a much better place. I believe everyone has a role. And it doesn't, even just talking about callings in general, right? Not just the call to coach, but just sometimes a calling can be something so subtle as I just I just feel called to give that person a smile. They look like they're having a bad day, right? So they can be small and sometimes they're big, like being of service. Coaches are of service to a greater good individually or, in a company. But yeah, what a different world.
Yeah, I love how you put that, because callings, they do come in different shapes and sizes and with different time parameters,
Mm,
maybe different phases of our lives. And I think sometimes I know for me, when I would think about um, a career, for example, um, that was usually the terms that I thought in was careers, because that's kind of just what you do. You get a career. And so my greatest fear was, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to do this for how long? And and the beautiful thing about a calling is, first and foremost, it really is something that you hear inside, and you hear in your heart. And that calling may not call you for the rest of your life. It may call you for a while, and then it might stop.
yeah, that's a good point. My mentor Sandy used to say, when your calling calls, don't hang up. I was like,
That's
yes.
good.
Yes.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing too. I would say I think that we're always honoring a call.
Mm,
And the question is, where is that call coming from? Is that call coming from within your soul? Is that call coming from
yeah.
society? Is that call coming from your parents? Is it coming from what you think that other people think you ought to do? Where is that call coming from? Whose phone call
Right.
are you
Yeah.
answering right now?
I love that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
hopefully, listeners, this has been some good food for thought with what's calling you, right? We're about to go into 2023. So giving some consideration to that. And Michael, thank you so much. We're at time. So I just want to say how much I appreciate this conversation. And thank you for joining us today. We really hope that these messages have been a lantern to your path as you expand your success as a coach, leader, or helping professional. If you'd like to join the conversation further, you can visit us at integrativeintelligence.global. Bye for now.